I work as a facilitator, and what it means is that I support groups so they can achieve their goals during the meeting or series of meetings. And I do that by considering the relations between participants, needs of participants, and I choose the appropriate methods of working with a group within a given framework of time and space, so to speak, with directly or online. And of course, in my everyday work, it very much depends on what this group, organization, institution achieves, wants to do. So they may want to, for instance, construct their strategy, what they vision, mission, what they aim to do in next years. So my role as a facilitator is different from that of a consultant, for instance. So I do not write the strategy for them. I encourage them. I organize their work in such a way they can do it themselves. I mean, with my support. But these are their words, their priorities that are there in the end. But today, I'd like to tell you more about the very specific approach that also influences my everyday work, which is a dialogue, how it's understood in the Nansen Center for Peace and Dialogue, which is a center based in Lillehammer in Norway. And that dialogue is, on one level, it's a whole paradigm of how we understand the communication between people. And to make it maybe easier, I can put it together with debate to make those two ideal types of way how people can communicate. And whereas during debate, and think of, for instance, political debates before any kind of elections, the aim is pretty straightforward. You want to convince, well, your opponent perhaps, but moreover, maybe even more the audience, that you're right. And any change in your viewpoint is a sign of weakness. You look for everything that is kind of weak and that can be somehow show that you have a superior understanding of things in what your opponent, and yes, and this is how you define also the person you're in a debate with as an opponent. So it's more of a struggle. It's more of a, again, I'm really simplifying things for the purpose of our talk here. So it is a fight, really. Whereas in a dialogue, and so only one person really can win. It's 0-1, 1-0. Whereas in dialogue, the situation is quite different. I could say that it is possible everyone wins, and how it is possible that because there the goal, the ultimate objective of a dialogue is a better understanding of the other person and of myself during this interaction. And so here I would say it's more of a dance, really, when I think about metaphors. It's more of really listening to understand, listening to ask such questions that they can really make space for my partner to explain, so they can explain them what they think, where they come from, what they feel, what their experiences were. And here I say that, it's not really necessary to change your viewpoint, but if you realize that you've been missing something before, and now you see it as a broader, you have a broader perspective, therefore, this change is a sign of maturity, not a weakness. And here, I guess this is, you try to make your partner safe, to create safe space, also brave space, so they can reveal something about themselves, be vulnerable, and in such a way connect to them. So I'd say here in dialogue, a very important part is a process of connecting and empathic listening and exchanging. I think dialogue is extremely important notion nowadays, because our culture, I'd say this is, I try not to generalize too much, but I think this is a kind of well-based, well-founded generalization. So that our culture is a debate culture, that beginning even from schools, and our upbringing, not to mention public sphere. We do try and live in a way, in a sphere where we kind of convince each other and we want to be right. And hesitation, not being sure, is a sign of weakness. I mean, if you ask too many questions, you're weird. And if you don't know the answer, that means that you're simply just silly, and you shouldn't be showing off with that. I'd say this is the stereotypical image of a strong person. I know, I do not hesitate, I just go forward with my agenda. And I think a lot can be missed here, especially when the polarity and polarizing notions are being misused in a public sphere, when they are fueling the divisions and being used in party politics or even other kind of politics, not only limited to party politics, but it's being played by some other actors who gain from making emotions higher and higher, from the audience, from the public. I would continue with the notion of polarity, because for me as a facilitator, polarity is something that's it's natural to the landscape of a meeting. I mean, in every group, even as homogeneous as you can imagine, there will be some polarities. I mean, people will differentiate between different topics. That's okay. That's and you as a person, if you want to work with a group, or when you participate in a group work, in a group conversation, you may be well aware about that and kind of try to uncover and see what kind of polarities, what kind of matrix of polarities is there. The problem, as I said before, starts when those polarities are further fueled and pumped for some other reasons, because it then makes this false image, vision, that as people, we are like white and black. I mean, we're on the opposite sides of a spectrum, and there's nothing in between. That there are two camps, for instance, that are totally different, and there's one line of division, and it is not like that. And when you ask about what makes a good dialogue, I think this is about befriending difference, and making participants, people, realize there's so much more to it. There are so many shades of gray that I can be agreeing with you on one level, but then we can be totally different on the other issue. And of course, the question is what enables that? Because this is all nice and to say and share such a vision, but then what are the criteria? What are the of such a dialogical situation? And to describe it, I'll go to the Nansen Center's approach of the public dialogues, dialogues about an issue of concern, of public concern. So any given issue that actually is important for people can be a topic of a dialogue. So say I facilitated dialogue some time ago about patriotism, and the opening question of the dialogue was, what does it mean to love one's country? I facilitated dialogues, public dialogues on community, and there the opening question was, what does it mean for you to feel at home? So this is the setting. So this is one. So we have a topic, important one. We have a facilitator, so a person from who can create the space, hold the space, meaning be a safeguard for some rules for participants so they can relax in engaging in conversation, understand. So one of those rules is a very important one. Please try to speak on your own behalf. So share your own experiences, feelings, needs, whatever, that are yours. Second, try to listen to understand. So this is again referring to what I said in the beginning. So try not to listen to convince and pick out the arguments that will be as sharp and as forceful as to kind of show your partner is wrong. But no, try to listen to understand so that you can awake curiosity within yourself, curiosity of actually what this person whom I'm listening to is, what was their way to this statement, for instance, what influenced them, what experiences they felt. And third rule, very important as well, is try not to argue and fight others' experiences, because what for dialogue is very important is that it's not about, this can be seen as controversial. This is not about facts. This is not about theories. This is about people's truths and how they see worlds. So it's not really what's the ground of actually saying you're not right when this person believes they're right, and by closing their mouth, it won't change their mind. They'll just keep that to their own truth, and it will stay like that. And maybe even they will cling to their truth even stronger. Being aware of how challenging it may be when you're in a heat of conversation. I think that the first step for me is encouraging my curiosity, and trying to focus on those key phrases, key words I can follow, because it's something about, it is a dialogue for me. It's some sort of a yes, approach, but also way of life, really. In a sense, it is at some level, it becomes integral with who I am. I cannot be one person with the group and another person outside of the group. Okay, sometimes I can, but it's not, not as a rule, and so there is a certain degree, I guess, of humility to this dialogue, that you just have to question yourself, how much do you actually know? And for this reason, asking one or two follow-up questions, and for instance, those, as I explained to you, those that really focus on what actually person has said, really with a clear intention of understanding better, trying not to judge in the course of asking this question, trying, because this is one of the features of a facilitator, and that's why it's so important to have one in the room. This feature is multi-partiality, which means, it's kind of akin to objectivity, neutrality, but because we in the Nansen Center, we believe that is it's difficult. It's nearby impossible to be neutral and objective. What does it mean, really, to be objective? Because we are still people. And what we can do, or at least try our best to, is to be in a similar way with each participant, with each person, having the same share of curiosity when I'm interacting with them. So, or when I'm speaking about asking those questions, they come from this side of curiosity, multi-partiality, and seeing, checking with yourself, are you really asking similar questions and wanting to ask similar questions to people who you feel closer to, and people who you feel you're not as close to you as you think, that are on the opposite side.